New legislation could change the way that you download music. Conservative government is expected to crack down on file sharing today by tabling a bill.
And there are a lot of things in the bill that don't seem to be what they seem to be. Don't seem to be what they seem to be.
The educational exemptions are made in Canada.
Made worse in Canada. Made worse in Canada. Something of a Trojan horse. It won't help the educators. It may hurt them.
The format shifting exemptions are made in Canada.
Made worse in Canada. Made worse in Canada.
Legal to back up a movie to VHS, but not to a video iPod.
Time shifting exemptions are made in Canada.
Made worse in Canada. Made worse in Canada. Those exceptions are made meaningless by the technical protection measures.
Locks and lawsuits. Private copying of music exemptions is made in Canada.
Made worse in Canada. Made worse in Canada.
Even for private personal use, someone should not be breaking a
So from here on in, the only consumer rights you will have are the ones the U.S. industry gives you.
The statutory damages provisions are made in Canada.
Made worse in Canada.
Lawsuits against 10-year-olds. Subpoenas delivered at schools against stroke victims, against dead people.
Fred asks, what if I get caught and fined? How much of that money will go to the creator?
Every single penny of it goes to the creator.
We don't believe it will. We don't believe it will. There's been very little done in terms of helping artists. Essentially, it's been a strategy of suing fans and using digital locks.
Locks and lawsuits.
To dictate to fans, to dictate to consumers how they interact with content.
They tabled the bill this morning. Now 3 hours later, he's telling me he got cold feet. What, did he just discover Facebook this morning? Conservative thinking on digital innovation. Zero tolerance for innovation. Conservative thinking on digital innovation. Zero tolerance for innovation. Marjorie Le Breton says not only does she not understand technologies like Facebook, she thinks they're dangerous. Now, are millions of Canadian internet users a threat? So what we're having in these negotiations in Geneva right now is a mandatory snooping of individual internet use, the attempt to personally seize computers at the border, to search and seize, to search and seize, to search and seize.
Key issue on copyright is, of course, striking the appropriate balance.
You can't have balance unless you've had consultations, 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 consultations.
A lot of consumers, I think, felt justified in stealing music, essentially, or downloading it for free, because they feel they were ripped off for so many years, with very high prices on CDs. With very high prices on CDs.
We also feel like they're overpriced. We also feel like they're overpriced. Consumers are having to pay exorbitant prices, which at the end of the day, we don't see the profits from. The label sees the profits from it. We don't see the profits from. The label sees the profits from it. I wouldn't characterize it as stealing. Characterize the initial price points as the criminal act.
Who benefits here? Who's made happy? Who benefits here? Who's made happy? The American trade representative, the big American entertainment industry lobbyists.
If this becomes law tomorrow, how will it change things? How will it change things? How will it change things?
It'll be a made worse in Canada bill. Made worse in Canada. Made worse in Canada. We will end up with possibly one of the most draconian copyright acts anywhere in the world.
Well, the Minister of Industry clearly doesn't understand the issue of copyright because he's refused to meet with key Canadian stakeholders. He shut the door to universities and educators. He's ignored the advice of senior government bureaucrats. And he's completely shut the door to consumer groups, artists, and software innovators. This minister has been led around by the nose by the U.S. lobbyists, and he's ignored the Canadian inputs.
His comments about the U.S. DMCA are total rubbish. Total rubbish. The U.S. DMCA, total rubbish.
debate DMCA, WIPO, all the other acronyms that he wishes. I'd like to assure him today that his copyrighted exaggeration, hyperbole, and overacting will not be prohibited under any legislation the government introduces.
Meanwhile, his government has been rolling out the red carpet for corporate lobbyists and the U.S. ambassador. The minister won't stand up for Canada. The minister won't stand up for Canada. The minister won't stand up for Canada. Why does he continue to act like a private butler to the U.S. ambassador?
My friend's comments about the USA, DMCA, or NDP BS.
I couldn't follow all those letters, but the last two didn't sound polite. Didn't sound polite. Didn't sound polite. And I hope the honourable member didn't say what I thought I heard. It would not be proper. Would not be proper. Would not be proper. Would not be proper.
Now the minister's going to throw some crumbs to the public, like telling you you're not going to be arrested if you time shift your TV show. But if your kid downloads a Hannah Montana ditty or you change the lock on your iPhone, you're going to get busted. That's the DMCA.
$20,000 in fines.
Predatory legal action.
And there are a lot of things in the bill that don't seem to be what they seem to be. Don't seem to be what they seem to be.
You can't put locks on your citizens. Why has his government declared war on Canadian consumers?
There's really nothing in this bill for consumers that isn't given by the one hand and taken away by the other. Nothing in this bill for consumers that isn't given by the one hand and taken away by the other.
So Canadians have a right to know why they are going to be stuck with this unbalanced, one-sided piece of made in the USA copyright legislation.